I'll never forget the sound of her laugh that night, the same laugh that used to be mine. Now it was shared with someone else. It started at a dinner party, one of those casual, suburban get-togethers where everyone brings a bottle of wine and pretends their lives are perfect. The kind of evening where you smile too wide and talk about home renovations while silently praying your marriage doesn't collapse under the weight of your own lies or someone else's. Her name is Lauren, my wife of 8 years. Or at least she used to be my wife. That night I watched her from across the room. She was glowing, laughing with a small group of her coworkers near the kitchen island, wine glass in hand. I used to love that glow. It meant she was happy. But lately that glow didn't come from me anymore. I noticed him then, Ethan, tall, confident, the kind of man who wears his ego like a tailored suit. He wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't even part of our friend group. But there he was, leaning a little too close, whispering something that made her laugh, that quiet, secret laugh, the one she used to reserve for me. Something inside me tightened, a small, invisible thread snapping. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid, but deep down I already knew, because love has a way of warning you quietly, painfully, before it dies. A few days later, the distance between us felt colder than ever. Lauren would come home late, claiming meetings ran long, or Ethan needed help finalizing the project. Her phone stayed glued to her hand. The smell of her perfume lingered differently, sharper, not the warm scent I knew. One night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the edge of our bed and stared at the soft rise and fall of her breathing. The moonlight cut across her face, and I felt like I was watching a stranger sleep in my wife's skin. Something in me broke that night, so I did the thing I promised myself I'd never do. I checked her phone, and there it was, a text. From him, I can still taste your lipstick. Next time, let's not rush. You deserve more than a parking lot kiss. My heart stopped. I didn't even breathe. Then another message from her. We shouldn't do this. But I can't stop thinking about you either. I stared at those words until they blurred into static. I didn't cry, didn't yell, didn't even wake her up. I just sat there in the dark, realizing the woman I loved more than anything was giving her heart and her lips to someone else. The next morning, I made coffee like always. She came downstairs in her robe, kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled and asked how her meeting went. She said it was productive. I said good. Then she left for work, and I watched her taillights fade down the street like the last traces of the life we built together. For 2 weeks, I pretended I didn't know. I thought maybe if I acted normal, she'd find her way back, that maybe this was just a mistake, a phase, but she didn't come back. She drifted further away, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Every smile felt rehearsed, every kiss mechanical, until one night she didn't come home at all. When she finally walked through the door the next morning, her hair was messy, her shirt rumpled, and she smelled like cologne that wasn't mine. She froze when she saw me sitting at the table, coffee cold in my hands. Our eyes met. No words, no excuses, just silence, the kind that screamed louder than any argument ever could. Finally, she spoke. Mark, I think we need to talk. I nodded, my voice barely worked. Yeah, I think we do. She sat across from me, unable to meet my eyes. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. I felt unseen. Like we were living the same day, over and over. I wanted to laugh, unseen. I'd spent every ounce of myself trying to love her right, but she wasn't looking for love anymore. She was chasing excitement. Is it him? I asked. She hesitated, then nodded. Yes, Ethan. The name hit like a blade to the ribs. She started to cry. He makes me feel alive again. Alive, that word echoed in my skull. What was I then? Dead weight. I couldn't even be angry. Not yet, just hollow. So what now? I asked quietly. She wiped her tears. I think I need time to figure out what I really want. Time? She wanted time after giving everything sacred between us to another man. Okay, I said finally, my voice steady but my chest burning. Take your time. And just like that, she packed a bag, kissed me on the forehead like I was a memory, and walked out the door. The sound of that door closing was the loudest silence I've ever heard. For days, I wandered through the house like a ghost. Every room still smelled like her. Vanilla shampoo, lavender lotion, the faint scent of betrayal. Her coffee mug sat in the sink, her hairbrush on the counter, her photo on the nightstand. But she wasn't there. I kept replaying her words. He makes me feel alive again. Maybe I was part of the problem. Maybe I let the routine swallow us whole. But even then, cheating wasn't the answer. And still, despite everything, I missed her. God help me, I still missed her. I wanted to believe she'd realize what she'd lost, that she'd come home. But deep down, I knew the version of Lauren I loved was already gone. Still, part of me waited. Every night, I checked the driveway, half expecting her car to pull in. Every morning, I checked my phone, hoping for a text. Nothing. Until one day something did happen, something that would turn my quiet heartbreak into chaos. Days turned into weeks, weeks into something that felt like years. The house was too quiet now. No footsteps in the hallway, no late-night humming from the kitchen, no "good morning" whispered half asleep against my shoulder. Just silence and the dull hum of the refrigerator, like a reminder that life still went on even when you wished it didn't. I tried to keep myself busy, work, gym, anything that made me forget, but grief has a way of finding you in the still moments, like when you see her favorite mug in the cabinet or find her hair tie under the couch. I thought I could move on until the first photo showed up. It was a normal afternoon. I was at my desk scrolling through my phone when a mutual friend posted pictures from a weekend getaway, and there they were, Lauren and Ethan. Smiling, arms wrapped around each other, standing by a lake we once visited together on our anniversary. Same place, same pose, different man. I felt my stomach twist. She looked happy. Or maybe she just looked like she was trying to be. Her eyes told a different story. If you knew her well enough, you could see it. A forced kind of joy, a smile that didn't quite reach, but still it hurt. God, it hurt. That night I didn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering what he had that I didn't. Was he funnier, stronger, or maybe he just wasn't me? I started noticing patterns, pictures, posts, little digital footprints. She wasn't hiding him. In fact, it almost felt like she wanted me to see, like she wanted to prove something, that she'd moved on. 2 months later, I ran into her. By accident. It was at a grocery store on a Sunday morning. I was grabbing coffee beans and she was in the same aisle standing beside him. She froze when she saw me. Ethan, on the other hand, smiled. That smug, confident grin that made my blood boil. "Hey, Mark," she said softly. Her voice trembled a little. I nodded, pretending my heart wasn't about to shatter all over again. Ethan extended a hand. "So this is the famous husband I've heard about." He said it like a joke, but there was something behind it, a spark of mockery, maybe even victory. I didn't take his hand. I just looked him dead in the eye and said, "I guess we've both heard stories then." He laughed awkwardly, turned away, and started picking up groceries. Lauren stood there, eyes glassy, fingers trembling on her phone. For a moment I almost asked her how she was, but the words died in my throat, because I realized I didn't recognize her anymore. After that day, something inside me shifted. I stopped waiting, stopped checking the driveway, stopped replaying what went wrong. Instead, I focused on me. I started running every morning, not because I wanted to be fit, but because I needed to feel alive again. I redecorated the house, one room at a time. I even signed up for a woodworking class, something I'd always wanted to try but never did because Lauren wouldn't like the mess. Each nail I drove into the wood, each plank I sanded smooth. It was like rebuilding pieces of myself. Slowly, painfully, I began to heal, but fate has a cruel sense of timing. One night, I got a message from an unknown number. It was a screenshot, a private chat between Ethan and another woman. "Ethan, she's getting too attached. I might need to back off soon." The other woman, Lauren, writes, "Ethan, yeah, poor thing. She really believes I'll leave my girlfriend for her." My blood ran cold. The timestamp was from 2 days ago. At first, I thought it was fake. But then came the photos, him and that other woman together, at the same lake house from before, the same place he once took Lauren. I didn't know what to feel: anger, pity, vindication. Part of me wanted to call her right then, to tell her everything, but another part of me whispered she made her choice, so I didn't reach out. I let time do its work, but she reached out to me. 3 days later, around midnight, my phone buzzed. Lauren. I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Her voice was shaky, small, nothing like the confident woman who once walked out of my life. "Mark, can we talk?" I didn't respond. She took a breath. "You were right about him." I stayed silent, then I heard her start to cry. "He's been lying to me the whole time. He's been seeing someone else. I found messages, pictures. I feel so stupid." The irony was almost unbearable, but beneath the bitterness, I felt something unexpected: empathy, because I knew exactly how that pain felt. She whispered, "I don't know where else to go." And against every piece of logic and self-respect I'd built, I said, "Come home." That night, as I waited for her to arrive, I couldn't stop thinking about what I was doing. Was I giving her a second chance, or just giving her a place to fall apart? When she finally walked through the door, her face was pale, eyes red and swollen. She looked destroyed. No makeup, no pretense, no armor. Just the broken version of the woman who once broke me. "Mark," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I'm so sorry." Tears slid down her cheeks, and for the first time, I didn't see the woman who betrayed me. I saw someone who'd been betrayed too, by the same kind of man she left me for. The universe has a cruel way of teaching lessons. I didn't touch her, didn't comfort her, but I didn't send her away either. Instead, I just said quietly, "You can stay, but just for tonight." And as she nodded through her tears, I realized this was no longer about revenge. It was about closure, but closure has a price, and mine was coming. The house felt smaller that night. Maybe it was the way her presence filled every empty space again, like she never left, yet everything about her had changed. Lauren stood in the doorway, shivering. I could tell she hadn't slept in days. Her mascara was smudged, hair tangled, hands trembling as she clutched her phone like it was the last thing tethering her to reality. "I can sleep on the couch," she said softly. I nodded. "Yeah, that's probably best." She walked past me without another word. Her scent, faint vanilla, and something new drifted past. For a moment, it pulled me back to when she used to wrap her arms around my waist while I made coffee in the morning. Back when we still meant something, but that was another life. The clock ticked past midnight. I sat in the dim light of the living room pretending to read, but my eyes weren't on the pages, they were on her. She sat at the edge of the couch, legs pulled to her chest, staring blankly out the window. Occasionally, she wiped a tear, thinking I didn't see. Finally, she spoke. "Do you hate me?" Her voice cracked on the last word. I set the book down. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Some days I think I do. Other days I think I just miss you." She looked down. "You shouldn't miss me. You deserve better than what I did." Silence heavy but honest. After a long pause, she whispered, "Can I tell you what happened?" I nodded slowly. She took a shaky breath. "At first, I didn't mean for it to go that far," she began. "Ethan was exciting. He noticed things you didn't anymore, or maybe I just thought he did. I felt wanted, seen. It was stupid." Her voice broke. "I thought he loved me. He told me he did. He promised me a future, Mark. Said we'd travel, move somewhere new, start over. He made me feel like I could be someone again, not just a wife, not just part of a routine." I swallowed hard, and then she looked up, tears pooling in her eyes. "Then I found out I was the other woman. He was living with someone else, 2 lives, 2 sets of lies. He used me the same way I used you." Her words hit the room like thunder. She buried her face in her hands. "I ruined everything for a man who never even saw me." For the first time since she'd come back, I felt something shift, a strange mix of pity and release. Maybe that's what justice looks like sometimes. Not screaming, not revenge, but watching the person who broke you finally see the truth. "I'm sorry," she whispered again, voice barely there. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know I see it now, how much I hurt you, how much I destroyed what we had. You didn't deserve that." I stared at her for a long moment. The woman crying on my couch wasn't the one who betrayed me. She wasn't the one who smiled at another man while I waited at home. This one was broken, stripped of pride, stripped of illusion. Part of me wanted to reach out, to hold her, to tell her it was going to be okay. But another part of me whispered, "Don't, not this time," because love doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes it means finally letting go. We sat in silence for a long while after that. The rain started outside, soft at first, then steady. It tapped against the windows like a quiet metronome for everything unsaid between us. Lauren spoke again, voice trembling. "Do you ever think we could fix it?" Her words hung there. I took a deep breath. "I used to. Every night I used to imagine you coming back and saying sorry. I thought maybe we could start over, wipe it all clean. But now I don't think we can." She nodded slowly, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I understand. I still care about you," I said quietly, "but not the same way. Something broke, Lauren, and I don't think it'll ever fit the same again." Her lip quivered. "I know, I feel it too." After that, she just sat there. We didn't talk much more. The air was thick with everything we both knew but couldn't say. Eventually, she drifted off to sleep on the couch. I watched her for a while, the slow rise and fall of her chest, the faint tremor of her fingers. Once that sight would have filled me with warmth. Now, it just reminded me of everything we lost. I whispered, mostly to myself, "You can stay, but just for tonight." Then I turned off the light and went upstairs. In bed, I lay staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain. Memories flickered like film reels, our wedding day, our first apartment, the night she told me she was pregnant with our first child before the miscarriage that changed everything. We'd been through storms before, but this was different. This was the storm we created ourselves. At some point, I heard her footsteps, soft, hesitant. She stopped outside the bedroom door. "Mark," she whispered. I didn't answer. She waited a few seconds, then turned and walked away. I heard the couch creak again. For a moment, I thought about getting up, about asking her to come in, about holding her like old times, but I didn't. Because I knew that comfort wasn't love anymore. It was nostalgia, and nostalgia can be a dangerous lie. As the rain finally quieted and dawn started to creep through the blinds, I made a decision. Tomorrow would be different. Because forgiveness and reconciliation aren't the same thing, and I was finally ready to choose one without the other. But when I went downstairs that morning, something unexpected waited for me. Lauren was sitting at the table, eyes red but calmer. A letter sat in front of her, folded neatly, my name written on it. When she saw me, she stood. "I didn't want to wake you," she said quietly. "I just needed to say goodbye the right way this time." I nodded, neither of us cried. There were no more words left to say. She picked up her bag, took one last look around the kitchen, then smiled sadly. "Thank you for letting me come home." And with that, she left. The sound of the door closing was softer this time, but it still echoed. Morning light spilled through the kitchen window, soft and golden, touching everything she'd left behind: a half-empty coffee mug, the faint outline of where her suitcase had sat, the quiet. For the first time in months, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt clean, peaceful. Lauren was gone, really gone this time, and for once I wasn't chasing her shadow. I sat at the table for a while, staring at the folded letter she'd left behind. Part of me didn't want to open it, afraid it would drag me back into the ache I'd just learned to live with. But closure, I realized, doesn't come from running. It comes from facing what hurts, so I unfolded the paper. Her handwriting was shaky, uneven, like every word cost her something. "Mark, I don't expect forgiveness, not from you, not from myself, but I need you to know you were never the reason I strayed. You gave me stability, love, and a home. I just didn't know how to be happy with it. I kept chasing something new, something thrilling, until I realized I'd been running from myself all along. Ethan wasn't my escape, he was my mirror. And I finally saw who I'd become: selfish, restless, hollow. You didn't deserve what I did to you. You never did. Thank you for showing me grace when I least deserved it. For not screaming, not humiliating me, not becoming what I turned you into. You're stronger than I ever was, Mark. Please find the happiness I threw away. Lauren." By the time I finished reading, my hands were shaking. Not from anger, not even sadness, just release. I folded the letter carefully and tucked it back into the envelope. Then I sat there for a long time, listening to the birds outside, the hum of the morning, the sound of a world that didn't stop just because my heart once did. That evening I went for a drive. No destination, just roads I hadn't taken in years. The sky was painted in fading golds and purples, the kind of sunset you can't help but stare at no matter what's going on inside you. I rolled the windows down, let the wind wash through the car, and breathed. Somewhere between the quiet roads and the open sky, I realized something. Forgiveness isn't a gift you give someone else. It's the key that unlocks you. Lauren had her story, and I had mine. Ours just ended before we knew how to write the final chapter together. A few weeks later, I heard through friends that she'd moved out of town. No new relationship, no photos, no updates. Just gone. I thought I'd feel bitter or relieved. Instead, I just felt still, like a chapter quietly closing on its own. I started finding new rhythms: Sunday runs, coffee with coworkers, even small talk with the barista who remembered my order before I said it. One morning, she smiled and said, "You look lighter today." And she was right, I did, because pain doesn't disappear overnight. It fades piece by piece when you stop feeding it. A few months passed. I invited some friends over, the same group from that dinner party months ago, the night I first saw Ethan whispering in her ear. This time, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't trying to prove I was okay. I actually was. There was laughter, music, warmth, the kind that doesn't have to hide behind wine glasses and forced smiles. Someone mentioned Lauren's name, then quickly apologized. I just smiled and said, "It's okay, really. I hope she's doing better." And for the first time, I meant it. After everyone left, I stepped outside. The night was calm, cool breeze carrying the scent of rain. I looked up, stars scattered across the dark like tiny fragments of forgiveness. I thought about the man I was when all this started, desperate, confused, angry. And the man I was now, quieter, steadier, not perfect, but healing. Pain changes you, but if you let it, it can also refine you. Lauren taught me that love without respect collapses, and I taught myself that respect without love still holds you up until you can love again. Sometimes I still think about her, not the betrayal, not the lies, just her laugh, the way she used to curl up beside me on the couch on cold nights, how she'd hum old songs when she cooked. And I realized those memories don't hurt anymore. They just are pieces of a life that mattered, even if it ended differently than I imagined. I don't wish her pain, I don't wish her regret, I just wish her peace. Because peace, I've learned, is the most valuable form of love, the one that doesn't demand, doesn't beg, doesn't chase, just is. The next morning, I went back to the lake. The same one from all those photos, the one she and Ethan once stood by. It was quiet, the water perfectly still, reflecting the sky like a mirror. I stood there for a long time, thinking about how everything had come full circle. This was where her new life began, and where mine finally found its balance again. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered, "I forgive you, Lauren. Not for her sake, for mine." And in that quiet moment, with the wind brushing against my face and the sun warming my skin, I finally felt free, because sometimes the loudest revenge isn't chaos, it's peace.